Yes, guys. Yes, welcome back to another live stream. Welcome back to Super Sunday as well. I get most of the people here who are watching are probably watching the Aston Villa and Leicester City game. Don't worry, we're both watching it as well. So this is going to semi-turn into a watch-along as well because we need to. This match is very fucking important to us as well. I think Leicester City are 3 points behind us now. So a loss in this sort of game would actually do us a good bit of credit. But I also think a draw might do us credit in the sense of both teams because you said what if they win their game in hand and this match, they're level on points with us.
Leicester are 4 points ahead at the moment. Aston Villa are currently 6 points behind us, and they've got 2 games in hand, I believe, over us. So
what's the goal difference then?
Not that much.
Not that much. Okay, so it's like it could change in the space of a game or two.
I think it's 16-12. I think if I remember correctly, it's gone now.
Right.
But I think it's about 16
so
in our favour. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's nothing we can be too comfortable about. No. But I don't even need to introduce my guest now because we've already started chatting. But yeah, Craigo, chat to me about the last day and a half.
I did a quiz last night, peaked too early on the geography round, and then failed after that. Come fourth, gutted. Other than that.
Top 4 settings is what we stand for as Chelsea. Alex as well. If you want a link, I'll send you as well. You can jump on too. I'm tired. Lowell says, tell Craigo to react to Tottenham West Ham. I don't even think I need to tell you to react to that one. I just wanted to put it up anyway.
The boys are on getting the clips as we speak. So yeah, don't worry about that one.
Yeah, and also certain other reaction video coming out later today as well on the Craigo 28 football channel. So guys, don't forget to check that out as well. Link is down in the title. As soon as it's up, put us on in the background and put that one on as well so the Premier gets numbers as well. But guys, we're going to delve into Southampton 1, Chelsea 1, all the good, the bad, and the ugly. So get strapped in, get involved, smash the like and subscribe button if you guys are around as well. Big up Scott as well. And yeah, let's talk just basic thoughts on the Southampton-Chelsea game to begin with, and then we'll go into different talking points about it.
I keep getting called a Lampard fanboy, and the reason I defended Lampard for so long is because the individual player performances have not been or were not good enough under Lampard, and certain player performances under Tuchel so far still haven't been good enough. So I'm one of these people. I don't like to criticise a manager. Certain things are their fault, but especially with Tuchel, again, I said I'll make a proper judgment on him end of February after the Man United game, basically in March. So we've seen a bit more of him, so we can see really what the full picture is. But you can want to criticise manager all you want, and I'm seeing loads of people in my live stream and in my reaction video yesterday and on my TikTok putting Tuchel out. Bruv, we've had like 4 or 5 games of it. Let's relax. Let's chill. But what makes Tuchel's job easier is player performances, and still certain players were not good enough. Timo Werner, who's been great last couple of weeks, I thought was poor yesterday. Tammy Abraham, I thought did nothing. Mason Mount was good, but again, he's young. He can't put a team on his back by himself. I put something on Twitter earlier, and some geezer turned. I said, "Oh, Mason Mount, 22 years of age, doing his bit, blah 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 blah." And then all of a sudden, you get people going, "Oh, he's still crap." I mean, without him, we draw or we lose 1-0. You know, that's the bottom line. There's a lot still to be desired, and I've said it for the last few weeks. We're playing better, but we are far from the finished product. And I feel that a lot of Chelsea fans, not all of them, but a lot of Chelsea fans are getting kind of caught up in the hype train and are kind of getting a little bit blinded by the reality of the matter, which is still the 11 people on the pitch at the time play the game. Tuchel could be the best manager in the world, but if you've got the, player performances not going in, it's a different matter. Guardiola with a League Two side would not be the same manager he is with Man City. Do you know what I mean? That's obviously a very extreme example, but the players are the ones that have got Tuchel's plan in action. And I think at certain times, Tuchel, be Lampard, even Sarri, Conte, Mourinho, managers going right the way back through Chelsea, Andre Villas, bloody Boas and all sorts of shit. Certain players haven't pulled their weight. Obviously not the same ones right the way through, but at various points, players haven't pulled their weight. And it makes the job a hell of a lot harder for the manager.
Yeah, I think you're right where you're saying the same sorts of problems that we've been seeing under Frank Lampard are now coming up in this game against Tuchel as well. like we were brilliant in the defensive third, other than certain mistakes at certain points. But like it wasn't a continuous issue that we were seeing throughout the game. It was just in certain moments.
Yeah.
In the midfield, we were good. Alonso had a stinker, but we'll go into that anyway because I said this wasn't the game for him, but we'll delve into that later. But the bigger thing was the final third. We continue to be absolutely toothless in the final third. And it's a thing of both, to be honest. Like, there's moments like Mason Mount had an amazing game, but I still see these instances with Mason Mount where he just keeps his head down way too much. And it's a prevalent fact. He misses a lot of key passes or a lot of key chances that he could be creating just because his head's down too much. Now, I don't really say too much about it because he's one of our best players this season. Like, he's been overperforming throughout the season.
Yeah.
So I don't
And
want to sit here and start nitpicking on him, but same way, if we want to talk about getting him from a good level to the next level and being one of the best, I need to see more of these key passes being made from him.
Yeah, I think I've said it before about carrying players, and Mason Mount's not one that we have to carry. You know, Timo Werner we carried for a while. He wasn't putting his weight, and we paid the price for it. Jorginho, to a certain respect, he keeps the ball really well, but he hasn't got the pace, so you have to carry that in certain regards. But the carrying means that other players have got to put in a little bit more work or a little bit more energy. Zuma kind of coming back into the team yesterday. It wasn't like his first game back from injury or whatever, but still he's slowly trying to make his way back into the team. Same kind of thing. You can't afford to carry certain people. And their goal yesterday came from Kurt Zuma, and it is his mistake completely. There's no other way to say it. But it was still the fact that he was put in a position where the mistake was able to be made. People around him try and carry him a little bit more or whatever. Maybe we avoid that. But Tuchel in the last month or so, however long it's been, has done something that's very smart in playing to our strengths, which is trying to defend. Because the midfield and the forward line is 50-50, depending on who you want to play, because there's no consistency there. But with the back four, let's say including the goalkeeper, you can play individual people and you know that's what you've got. That's it. But there's so much unpredictability about going forward, playing the midfield, blah, 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 blah. It causes problems. Mason Mount scores goals for us. Obviously got a goal yesterday from the penalty spot, wins the penalty, does well in certain regards. Far from the finished product. Far from the finished product. Which is why, again, this is a project. This is about going forward. I love how much he plays, but even I think at times he should, drop out the odd game here and there. Didn't play against Barnsley. Under Frankie, probably would have played that game. Probably didn't need to. Do you know what I mean? But allow him to make the mistakes now. Allow him to make the mistakes now. Reece James, Callum Hudson-Odoi, allow them to make the mistakes now. Tammy Abraham has been a Premier League striker for now 2.5 years because obviously he was at Swansea before when they played in the Premier League. So he's got Premier League experience. Wasn't good enough yesterday. Can't afford to carry that because we had absolutely no goal threat and it made the job a lot harder. And again, making the job a lot harder for certain people around you, if they're that good, doesn't really make a difference. Phil Foden does all the really, really nice bits really, really well because every single player around him is world class, absolute world class, proper elite. But we haven't got that. So the chances of Mason Mount and some of the things of creativity, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Tammy Abraham, and whatever, we can't afford to carry that because we haven't got the world class quality around it. So they just get highlighted a bit more. There's nothing wrong with it as long as you can accept it and it's not what you rely on. Then it's a little bit easier. But the fact of the matter is, for the last 2 months, Chelsea have relied quite heavily on Mason Mount. And again, the more you try and rely on someone, the more opportunities there are to make mistakes. So, the same thing with Kepa. Kepa plays in goal. You play him once, it's less likely he's going to make a mistake than it is if you play him 20 games in a row. It's the same thing. Apart from Kepa, we brought to be the finished article at 70 million quid. And Mason Mount is an academy player. So I'm a little bit more accepting of it. But even I'll say, one against, was it Sheffield? No, who was the one that he missed? Oh, Spurs. Should have put us 2-0 up. Should have at least hit the target. He didn't. Far from a perfect player. But you can afford to carry certain players, not others.
Exactly that. And Nick comes in with a super chat and says, will a system change improve the goals up front? It might do, But I think we're deliberately playing a pragmatic system just to churn out the results. And
Yes.
I don't mind that because this still isn't Tuchel's team. Like, he's just giving the players a chances in and around there to figure out which players that he wants for next season and which players that he wants to see the club get rid of. But
It's a
right
very smart thing to do. It's a very smart thing to do from him.
Yeah, and I rate it. Like, I don't mind if our attack loses this bit more bite to it that has, because we've never really had that bite in the final third anyway. We can work on building that next season when we have a full pre-season behind our belts. We hadn't even had that going into last season, let alone going into this season. And we've seen under Maurizio Sarri how bad, and under Frank Lampard this season, how bad no pre-season can have on the squad. So I'm not taking anything that's happening over the next 4 months as gospel or any big worries of anything to accept with Tuchel. I'm not worried about the system either. This system is only there to try and get results. And to be honest, the only reason why we didn't get the results in this game was because of the rotations that we made. But I feel like the rotations were made more with the games that we have coming up in mind.
Yeah, I think again, I've said it before, and I think we've all kind of said about building momentum. I call it trending in the right direction. We stopped trending yesterday. We stopped heading in the right direction yesterday. If you were to have gone out and killed the game off, nice early doors, 1-0 Leicester. If we were to have gone
1-0 Leicester.
Yeah, I'm ahead of you. Sorry.
Oh, my stream's fine.
Yeah, if we were to have gone and killed the game off early doors yesterday, then I can understand making some of the changes that we did. But we didn't do it. We didn't do it. Again, and if the forward line is on fire completely, Tammy Abraham, the one that Marcus Alonso hit back across goal, Tammy Abraham didn't even put a foot out for it. If he puts a foot out and that finds its way in the back of the net, different game completely. And that's what you've got to be firing on all cylinders to be able to make these changes work a little bit more in your favour. Because ultimately, I mean, very basics of football is about scoring more goals than the opposition. And if we are struggling to score goals, we ain't going to win games, regardless how many changes we make.
Yeah, I feel like the Southampton game was just another cold reminder of how much we really need a complete centre forward. And it's so easy to say because that's like the ultimate dream, a big striker that can create chances for himself, will be able to bully defenders as well, and is clinical. That's something that we're lacking. And I love Tammy Abraham, and the good thing with Tammy is he still has time. A lot of people are saying that, Tammy Abraham's fighting for his future and everything. Not necessarily. Like, I think it's Olivier Giroud that's the striker that's leaving in the summer, and I think that just means Tammy Abraham's going to have another season as our third choice striker. That doesn't necessarily mean he's fighting to save his career. Same way we want to see him take the opportunities when they come. But I've said with Tammy Abraham, I feel like it's going to be a lot slower growth with him before he actually reaches his peak compared to players like Callum Hudson-Odoi, Reece James that you've seen hit the ground running. I don't think Tammy Abraham's that sort of player that grows that quickly. So you need to be patient with him a little bit, which is why I don't mind us going in for another big striker. It's not going to take too much it's not going to take anything away from Tammy because, in my opinion, he's still developing.
I think he's going to go on loan.
Wouldn't even be against that. Like, as long as he
I think he's going to go on loan. And do you know, a player that I really think has got a Chelsea future. I genuinely think this guy has got a Chelsea future, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I was thinking about it last night in bed. We could really do with someone like Batshuayi. We really could do with him, because that's what Tammy is. Tammy is a tapping merchant. Batshuayi is a better version of Tammy in that respect. The main thing Tammy's got over Batshuayi is he's 6'3", so he's got better heading ability, but you don't use it.
We are not in 2021 and selling me Batshuayi prop. No way.
Jesus Christ, he's not Chelsea centre forward of the future. Jesus Christ, do not get me wrong. Still go and buy fucking Haaland, please, for God's sake. But I mean, it's not a bad thing, It's not a bad suggestion. Bear in mind, we've already got him. He's already our player. He's already. I know, but
do you remember his last league game that he played for us?
I'm not saying he's going to be the starting centre forward, but for Tammy Abraham over Batshuayi, just saying, it's not that big of a difference. Honestly, it's not that big of a difference.
Mate, here's the thing. I get what you're saying. It's just I have next to no confidence in Michy Batshuayi as a striker. He used to play, and I used to sit there and think Morata was genuinely better than him. I'd scream for Morata to get back on the pitch. It was that bad.
I don't have faith in either of them. Oh yes, look at that. The old school boys are back. I don't have faith in
Oh,
either.
there you
But I mean, that's just what we've got. It's what we've got. If it helps Tammy to develop and him go out on loan, I'm all for it, honestly.
I have I can't lie. I get what you're saying, but same way I think with Mishi Batshuayi, his all-round play. We've complained about Tammy's all-round play. Mishi's all-round play is like gutter quality.
2-0.
Oh, is it 2-0?
Yeah.
Oh, I need to get
Oh,
that.
yeah, my stream is way behind. Well, that game's done
Pay
anyway.
for fucking Sky.
I'm on Now TV, bro. And it's still behind.
Is that still Chino's Now TV if you got your own now?
No. Chino's got rid of it after a month. Can't be asked.
Okay.
Oh, who was it? Harvey Barnes? Nope, Vardy. Nope,
Harvey
Barnes. Okay. Yeah, that one's just coming for us now.
Great
Lawrence,
fantasy team
Mishi
player, by the way.
Batshuayi in 2021. What's your thoughts?
Does he even play for Palace? Isn't he even not good enough for
but that's
Palace?
the thing.
Like,
That's the
well,
thing.
Kind of.
I think he scored like 1 goal in all season for Palace, and that was like a 96-minute consolation goal to get it like to 2-1 or 3-1 or something. So,
Yeah.
so no, like Mishi Batshuayi enough for me, bro. We're talking about Erling bloody Haaland in the summer, and man's talking about Batshuayi.
Please, for God's sake, sign Erling Haaland. Fucking hell, sign Erling Haaland.
Please.
If you want a useless player to sit on the bench, you're more likely at least let it be Batshuayi because he's barely going to get used anyway. At least Tammy might get a little bit better somewhere else. And there was Tuchel in charge of Dortmund when they got Batshuayi?
I think so.
don't think so, but I'll check.
No, it wasn't.
Was he not?
Was it
Okay.
Favre?
No, yeah, it was the Austrian Peter Stöger, yeah.
Where was Tuchel? Was he?
I forgot Stöger managed him. Fuck.
Tuchel was at no, he was at Dortmund.
Oh,
No, because Batshuayi joined in
2015
January.
appointed at Bundesliga, Dortmund.
Was it the
Yeah, he
season
joined in
had?
2015. And what's his name? He joined Dortmund at 2018. Yeah, he was still there. They both left at the same time.
No, I guarantee it wasn't. Guarantee
What,
it.
sorry, when
I'm on
did he
Wikipedia. Like, wait. Well, no.
Just
He left in 2017, didn't
Yeah,
he?
Tuchel left in 2017. I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
he had
Oh,
like he
fair
must have
enough,
took
then,
a year gap or something. Yeah, my bad.
took a gap year,
Exactly,
backpacking
yeah.
around Southeast Asia.
I was gonna say though, if he fucking takes Batshuayi and gets the best out of him, we don't even need a destroyer DM because then we can just get Bakayoko in. If he can sort Batshuayi, I'll rate him with Bakayoko too. He can get Zappa, Costa, and Barkley in. We can get the whole 2017 gang back again. And speaking of which, we got the whole 2018 gang back again as well. So big up Lawrence and Scott for
Come
joining the cut as well. Lawrence, chat to me about the Southampton game because we haven't even spoken yet. So talk to me about your thoughts.
No, we haven't. It's weird, and honestly, like Tuchel couldn't have worded any better. We were brilliant the first 80 meters of the pitch, other than the one time we conceded, and we were just dreadful in the last 20, with a couple of moments of exception where just the finish was poor. Like for example, Reece James's volley, Mount did really well to set that up initially, so that was good play in the last 20. But other than that, there wasn't really much going on, and I've said this yesterday on Twitter, and I'm not saying this is 100% the only reason for things, but which 4 games have been the 4 most difficult under Tuchel? Wolves.
4 games.
Yeah, which 4 games, or which games anyway? Wolves.
Barnsley.
Yeah, Sheffield United was tight, right? Barnsley, and then yesterday. What do those 4 teams have in common? All played a back 3. The others that we were more comfortable against all played a back 4, right? So what does that tell us? History just repeats again, whether it's Conte, Lampard, or Tuchel. When we keep playing a back 3 continuously, all the opponents just change their systems to that, and we struggle every time. Obviously, there's more to it, and you can say we could just play better. Sure, of course, but it's still a thing that's repeating itself for the last 4 years, and I kind of want it to stop.
No.
One thing I will say is, to be fair, very good point. But do you also not think that the players have changed in those 4 years, and certain players that are still there from across those 4 years still need to pull their finger out their ass?
Yes.
Sure, I'm just saying I think there's a reason why very few top teams play a back 3, because against the back 3, if you're, say, the underdog, the worst team, the more defensive team of the 2, if you defend against the back 3 in a back 3, it makes it easier than playing against the back 4. That's just, I'm not even saying I'm statistically backing this up by anything. I'm just stating this from what I've experienced at Chelsea and the fact that no other top team, other than Atletico Madrid, but they are very defensive. So top team, yes, but different style of football. No top team plays a back three. And I would assume there's probably a bit of a reason to that.
Some do, or some have in the past.
You know, but name me one, and I'm happy to be corrected. But I can't think of one that other than Juventus, but again, and Inter, but there again, the Italians that, first go to Italy and then do nothing in Europe, because Juventus, when they went far in Europe, they usually actually changed to a 4 for the Champions League games and only played their 3 at the backs in the league. I can't think of a top team that did it continuously. Obviously, I'm not even saying never play it, right? Every now and again, it's a good shout and it works clearly. But I just think it doesn't really do that well for us when we play it for too long. Obviously, with Conte, when he first installed it, because the whole Premier League was like, we haven't seen that in 30 years. God knows what we do against that. But now, every now and again, everyone uses it anyway. Even Klopp maybe not, but even Pep and loads of other teams, even Wolves, like they got promoted. Everyone struggled against them, the whole league. And now, only the top teams struggle against them. Because all the other teams, when they play Wolves, they change their back 3 as well, and then Wolves are screwed.
To be fair, Jess has got a good point here where he say probably play a back 3 because we don't have a holding DM. But we said that's one of our biggest problems for this season anyway. That's one of the biggest profiles we're missing in the squad.
Mm-hmm. And it's a leader as well, which is why Declan Rice would have been so good. But I mean, at the fee, I mean, I can understand not buying him. But to be fair, I don't know if anyone watched the game earlier. Did you see Souček?
He's brilliant. He's
exactly what we need. Exactly what we need.
I've seen some West Ham fans rate him over Rice. So they
I can understand why. And as well, he got absolutely clattered and still carried on like nothing
pictures.
happened. Amazing. Fair fucking play to him.
Absolute warrior. He's having one of the best individual seasons of this season, in my opinion.
Yeah, stand by it. Brilliant player.
Even when we played away in Prague and obviously in the Europa League, he was good back then already.
Yeah.
He was a monster. Score against us?
Don't tell me he's one of the guys that tapped Kepa in the second leg.
I think in the second leg he was one of the people that scored.
I think he might be one of the people that scored every time, bar the last game that he's played against us. I think he might have even scored in both legs.
He scored.
Didn't we win 1-0 away? So he can't have scored.
Oh, yeah, honestly, I can't remember.
Yeah, because
I was there and I can barely remember. Like the game itself was not so fun. The trip was like sick, but the game itself was.
Big up Prague, to be fair.
Yeah, I wanted to also ask you guys' thoughts on Arsene Wenger's thoughts on Chelsea. He said he doesn't see a huge load of potential in there on the tactical side, physical side, aggressive side, or organizational side. And I'm not really sure to make that in the case of the first 5 games. Like, I'd get that maybe on the physical side, maybe, because we do struggle physically. And I've said with Kurt Zuma, we haven't really looked as imposing as we wanted to. And even though I've said I wanted Kurt Zuma, like he came on and literally gave the worst impression in the space of 90 minutes. But he shouldn't have played in the middle. And with rotation reasons, I understand, because I don't think Silva's going to be back for the Atletico game in general. Because if he was going to be back, there was no reason to bench Christensen. And now I'm looking at the manager and asking questions. But on the tactical side, I definitely don't agree with that. Like, I'd use Marcos Alonso for an example. We wouldn't have had Marcos Alonso be this effective for the last 4 games before the Southampton game, of course, if it wasn't for utilising him in a different way, getting other players to get the best out of him and getting him into the best positions and covering for his deficiencies. So I wouldn't say the tactical side. Aggressive side, maybe. Organisational side, definitely not as well. But what's your thoughts?
To be fair, I will say this. I still think Tuchel wants to have a look at all of his players. And I think Kurt Zuma is the one that he's had a look at less, which is why it makes sense that he was included. But we've all said it, a lot of cup finals between now and the end of the season. So I'll be honest with you, I can't understand why we would play him at this moment anyway. But there we are.
Yeah, because like this is meant to be the start of that dangerous run of games that we have. Like our next 5 or 6 games is looking ridiculous, and this was meant to be one of those as well. Because we all said that. I'm not sure how everyone thought as a fan base, but we all knew going into that Southampton game it wasn't going to be easy. Just because they were 14th place in the table doesn't mean it's another lower mid-table side that we could just batter 2-0 or 3-0 and just walk off the pitch with a dominant performance. It wasn't going to be like that.
I mean, we could have done.
We could have.
Any of our forwards could just pass.
It would have been harder than in recent games.
No, sure, but like if any of our forwards could just pass or cross the ball to where there's actually a teammate, we would have scored 6 goals in all of the last games, including yesterday. So like Southampton didn't do anything that specifically stopped us. We stopped ourselves, and that's been the issue in every game, really. Yeah, we usually won anyway, but that's not really been down to anything the opponent did, because Southampton's press was very good, but especially in the first half, we toyed with them. Like, they pressed us all they wanted. We passed it around them as if they weren't even there. We just couldn't connect it to the front three then and actually do anything with it. But like Tuchel said, for the first 80 meters of the pitch, we were brilliant. Like, yeah, okay, they got in behind us once, and the whole Zuma thing, didn't even mind playing Zuma, but don't play him in the middle. Like, what are you doing? Play him on the left, that's okay, but don't play him in the middle, the guy that's meant to calm things down. Thiago can do that, and Christensen can to some extent do that. Zuma ain't doing that. If anything, if you play Zuma and Rudiger together, I would rather Zuma on the side of Rudiger in the middle than the way we played it yesterday. I think that was a bit of a mare from Tuchel, quite frankly. And also, the fact that he started Kante yesterday was a bit of a mare, in my opinion. That was the last game to play Kante. And I know he was great off the ball, blah, blah, blah. Yes. But at the end of the day, our problem was that we didn't score, not that we didn't win the ball back. So, and then to bring Jorginho on or Kovacic makes no sense to me. So what was the point in that then? That, if anything, made us more defensive rather than more attacking for the last 15. I didn't understand that at all. So I think Tuchel got a lot of things wrong yesterday. I think I want to go into more depth about that in my stream later as well. But I think Wenger's just a bit of a waffle job, really. Like, that's what you get paid to do when you're a pundit, and then you just say things like, what does he mean that he doesn't see much potential tactically? Where was his potential tactically for the last 10 years? Like, do you know what I mean? What was he talking about? Played the same tactics every game.
You bitch. Oh, you bitch. I tell you.
I do love a bit of Arsenal slander on my lives. It's cool. It's cool.
what is he talking about? Like, it's like Graham Souness giving it a big one. Like, shut up.
Oh,
did you see that West Ham thing?
Well.
Did you see the West Ham when Jesse Lingard scored?
No,
they're all in
celebration.
The doing all that.
Nah, if that was against Chelsea, I couldn't have it.
No, someone took a screenshot of it when Souness is going to flip his nut in a minute.
I can't be arsed, man. The thing about N'Golo Kante, like, that's the thing. It was a catch-22, his performance. Because I was looking at him as an individual, his performance was excellent. I thought he looked more or less back to his best, straight off an injury as well, and coming back into the squad for, I think, his first start since the Barnsley game, I think, which was about 2 weeks ago. And we've had a lot of questions whether he fits into the lineup. And as an individual, I thought he answered a lot of questions. He was brilliant at breaking up play, as always. Off the ball, excellent. As soon as he lost the ball, he went and won it back. It was like seeing the old N'Golo Kante. But the only thing I didn't like was the link-up, just like the understanding of each other in midfield. I just didn't think it was near the same as we see with Jorginho and Kovacic. And that's always where the main struggle is, where you talk about Kante's influence into the team, and then you compare it to Jovicic's influence in the team. Because they understand each other perfectly. You still need to have that understanding of each other in a two-man midfield. But with Kante and Kovacic, like, they both just attack the spaces a lot more. Neither of them just tries to find one and then sits deep. Both of them go forward at the same time, which creates its own batch of problems as well.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, with Kante, I actually didn't think... I thought some of his passing was off. We know that's the case with Kante. There was a couple of times. There was one in the first half. He had a ball over the top. There was I think it was for Werner. It was ever so slightly over here. Like, the keeper just got there first, but it was very close to being a brilliant ball. And it's those sort of things. If he'd smashed that straight out, then it's bad. But I don't mind players trying those sort of things if it's ever so slightly over here and it doesn't quite come off, because it shows they've got a bit of a range of passing and they've got a bit of... They don't mind trying things. It's why, like, you see stats where, like, Bruno Fernandes for United loses the ball so many times, but it's because of how much he's trying, how many forward passes he's trying, how much he's trying to affect the play going forwards. It's not always going to work, so you're going to lose the ball a few times, but it's nice to see. And I thought, like you said, I think Kante, especially in the first half, was brilliant. I thought, for me, he was the best player on the pitch in the first half. But I agree in terms of someone on the watch along mentioned that there was a big disconnect between Kante and Kovacic, and it just wasn't working. In terms of the back three, I think the problem we've got with Rudiger and Zuma is they both have absolutely no positional awareness, so neither one of them can play as the central centre-back. To play as that central centre-back, you need to have awareness of everything around you, which is why having Christensen there works, which is why having Thiago Silva worked, because Zuma's positioning for that goal was terrible. He's far too close to Rudiger, far too close. Mm-hmm. And he has no reason to be. I said on the watch along, 2 steps back and he stops that. If he takes 2 steps back the other way, he stops that going through, or at least has a chance of stopping that going through.
Are these your graphics, Lewis?
No, I don't even remember who said this to me. I still have this.
That looks good. The second one.
Yeah.
The second one. I don't know.
I'll be honest with you.
Especially,
I was thinking for the
Must have
Everton.
either been off Twitter or I don't remember.
I was so confused. I was like, what is Jerry Mina playing for Southampton?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I was like,
He's
what?
I was so confused.
Oh, I can't.
Because you literally added that during your live review last night while I was doing my player ratings, and it literally like popped up in the brand part thing, and I was like, "Oh, what's that picture?" Click on it, and I was like, "What do you mean Mina?" It took me like literally a second to clock. Mina. You just didn't want to write it out. I'm so confused.
My handwriting's bad enough in general. I wouldn't blame you for thinking that's mine because my handwriting stinks. The same way, the point still stands. Like, you look at our positioning for this first goal, it shows exactly why we missed both Jorginho and Christensen in the middle of the pitch, because I feel like Jorginho can read the game well enough that he position himself well enough to intercept that. Christensen as well doesn't leave that big of an open gap there.
Yeah. And that's where I say, like, that's where for me we still need another centre-back.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of what happens in the summer in terms of getting a CDM, getting Haaland, getting wherever, we need another centre-back. Because we can't be having two centre-backs at our club that have absolutely no positional awareness, that have just no idea what's going on around them. They might be good in the air or good with the ball at their feet, but if they've got no idea what's going on around them, it's going to cost us.
Yeah, I think it's a really tricky one because you also have to look at it that way. I totally agree. Obviously, Zuma bottled that hard, and really got also, like Scott says, fully agree. Positional awareness, more often than not, is an absolute shambles. Well, we do also have to see that, Lewis picked them up early and said Southampton are a good team. They had 2 chances yesterday, 2.
Yep.
And one was a corner and one was the goal. Like, we weren't actually bad defensively. And any team, it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're Man City, Liverpool, Real Madrid, Barcelona, PSG, any team, any defender can make one mistake in a game. That doesn't necessarily mean you're bad. Like Talker said, we had actually a good defensive performance. Yes, they got through once, but if we just better up top, conceding one doesn't actually matter.
We go and score 2. We go and score 2. That one mistake happens, leads to a goal. Means nothing. Means absolutely nothing.
So it's like, obviously there's a certain balance to a team, and you can't always score 1, 2, 3, 4 goals. So that's when you need to make sure you don't concede one. But we've been defensively very good on Tuchel so far. So to make one mistake that leads to a goal, I think, even though like in my player ratings we gave Zuma a 3 and stuff, and I agree he was poor, but I think we shouldn't focus on the defensive issue there all that much, because like it happened once. And Minamino also did very well after, and it was a very good finish to sit Mendy down to fake the shot for Aspi's effort to block it and stuff. So yeah, it was one mistake, but I think that wasn't the biggest issue yesterday. And just to add to what Scott said about Kante, because off the ball, I thought he was brilliant, and in terms of winning the ball back, his counter pressing, unbelievable. If you rate that 8, 9, if close to a 10, right? I'm not sure I agree on the pass of the ball. Yeah, he had that ball to Werner, but wasn't that the only one? Like, are you going to say, like it was one? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, he's meant to be one of these best midfielders in the world, and we are meant to be one of these teams at least trying next season to fight for the Premier League. Can we have a midfielder who does one good pass and then we say he wasn't actually that bad at passing? Do you know what I mean? Like, that one bad touch where instead he nearly broke Gineppo's foot because his touch was that heavy and he tried to lunge after it. Or the amount of switches to Alonso that he either didn't play far enough so Alonso could actually attack the space, or he hit it out of play completely. I'm like, but the worst thing is, and again, not necessarily to blame Kante for this. Playing Kante meant Kovacic had to sit more than Kante, right? Because we let Kante roam more and be aggressive, which is great in a counter pressing. Totally understand the logic. But how good was Kovacic in the last few games when he was the one allowed to push a bit? And now yesterday, out of nowhere, he wasn't good anymore. Like, I'm not saying he was dreadful, but he wasn't anywhere near as good anymore. And he wasn't decisive by any means. Yeah, he got a bit unlucky with some referee decisions. He probably should have had 5 free kicks against him, got 1 probably, for all small fouls that the ref never gave. And that made him maybe look worse than he was. But still, he wasn't decisive. He didn't dribble his way into very dangerous positions. Very often, he didn't play any good passes. And he did those for the last 2 games. Yeah, I said this before. With Kovacic, it's always, he loves to have 2 or 3 or 4 good games and then slowly fade out again. But yesterday, to me, that wasn't the case of Kovacic fading out. That was more a case of out of nowhere, he had to sit. When with Jorginho was the one that sat, and Kovacic had a bit more freedom to be aggressive, to play forward, and that freed him up, and that made him better. Hence why playing Kante next to him, in my opinion, was just not it. As much as Kante was great off the ball, against a team like Southampton who do press us, and Kovacic had to do so much work in releasing us from the press, even moved over to Aspie's and Reese's side at times to help us, get around the press, that if we just play Kovacic and Jorginho there, we would have found that much easier. Would that have helped us in the final third? I don't know. But I just didn't think, Kante against Atletico, great. Kante against Man United, maybe Atletico. Kante against United, Liverpool, of course, start Kante. But if the amount of games he hasn't started Kante in already, Tuchel, since he came in, why to choose Southampton? I don't understand. Unless he decided to not start against Atletico and is like, well, I need to give him a game here because he won't start against Atletico because he wants to go Jorginho and Kovacic. Maybe then I can somewhat see it. But if, that's not the reason, and that won't happen on Tuesday, I just don't get why Kante started yesterday. Not even because he was so bad, but I don't think he helped. It helped the team that he played instead of Jorginho.
And the one thing I will say is it's not necessarily only Kante, but there's a few players about whoever you want to play. In midfield, obviously, centre of the pitch, it makes a lot of sense to kind of, judge those two as a pairing, whether it be Kante, Kovacic, Jorginho, Kovacic, Jorginho, Kante, whatever. It's always at what cost, because Kante was great, but at what cost? We didn't create anything going forward, and Kante and Kovacic, you're not likely to. Kovacic was also a little bit poorer yesterday because Kante played. That was the cost. It's not. I'm not going to sit here and say I know what the perfect combination between those three is, but it's still, you have to think about it. It's at what cost. And I got kind of criticised in the past for saying that it wouldn't surprise me if we moved on from Kante, because there is still a little bit of cost every time he plays, and because he does one thing exceptionally well. I say one thing, but one thing in particular exceptionally well, doesn't mean there's not a cost for the rest of it. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I know everything we should do and we should play Kante here, and we play this, that. But there is certain things that Kante can't do. And especially, again, with Chelsea, all three of the centre midfielders or defensive midfielders, whatever you want to call them, they're all small. So, again, it's at what cost? Could you get someone bigger in? I don't know. Danish Maldini, could he play in centre defensive midfield? Because he does for the national team. I don't know, but
maybe.
Yeah, there's certain things to think about, and I think a lot of the time people almost want to kind of paper over those things because they don't happen. There is a lot of cost from playing various different people, which is, it's a little bit of a tough one. Yeah, Jorginho would have been run all over the park yesterday because they'd have tried to.
But do you actually think so? Because we had 70% of the ball. I think that's a bit of a stereotype for Jorginho that in some games has certainly been true, particularly under Lampard. But it's not a thing that happened as many times as people claim it does. And especially under Tuchel, it hasn't, you could argue it hasn't even happened a single time. Maybe against Spurs in the second half. But to say that Jorginho would have been that, Jorginho would have done that, fact is, Kante got passed by to concede the goal. That's fact. Yeah. Saying that about Jorginho is just making assumptions that have been not existing for the last 6 games. I just think with Jorginho, and I'm not even saying slate Kante instead, not at all. I'm saying people need to relax a little bit, in terms of stop saying things about Jorginho that maybe were true in some cases last season, early this season, but haven't been existing for the last 6 games. We're playing a different system. The back three certainly helps Jorginho. I fully agree with that. But we did play a back three now, didn't we?
But we played a back three, I believe, against Liverpool, did we not? At their place, and he got mullered for, I think it was the 4th goal.
Did we play a back three? I don't remember. But that was again Lampard, though, not Tuchel's back three.
Oh, yeah, no, cool. But that's what I think there's, again, certain times, it's not always the right thing to do. And certain times, the difference is if we, I completely agree with what you're saying, that it hasn't happened in the last 6 games, because that is fact. But when it does happen once, it could happen again the following week. And everyone goes, oh, fucking, why do we forget about just running at Jorginho? Oh, we'll do it every week. And then you cause a problem for yourself. So I can understand the worry and concern from a lot of people. I'm one of those. I'm completely honest. I'm one of those. I said about carrying players earlier on, which I can understand and I can deal with. But especially Jorginho at 55 million quid, you'd hope you wouldn't have to carry him in any regard. But there we are. That's the world that we're living in.
But don't we have to carry every player? Don't we have to carry in terms of attacking play?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not saying it's only him. Jesus, it's not only him. But Ziyech, crap when he came on. What was the point of him coming on, truthfully? Had to carry him. Had to carry him against fucking Barnsley. Shit.
Honestly, if we had 5 subs yesterday, I think he would have taken Ziyech back off again as well.
Yes, completely agree. Honestly.
Yeah, what were you guys? Well, before we go into Callum Hudson-Odoi's thing, anyway, because that's a perfect segue. I did want to say, because we're all sitting there thinking which midfield two would have worked in this game, which one would have been the perfect mesh for this team. You think maybe we could have just changed the formation, because we are meant to be flexible in that sense. We're all talking about a bunch of different midfield pairings that wouldn't work, but it's in this midfield formation, in the midfield two. Why don't we just change it up for this sort of game then?
No, for Tottenham we did, and Mount came back a lot deeper and helped out with midfield, which is why he had a little bit of success. Sorry, Scott, I know you were going to talk, but you wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I was just saying it depends on how much Tuchel's trained in other formations with this team so far, because for all we know, he might have just solely focused on getting the best out of this formation, like what we've been talking about, to get the best results possible just for this season, until we can get to the pre-season, the summer, get a couple players in that he wants, and go to what we believe, or what was reported he wants to go to, which is 4-3-3, or a variant of. And so for all we know, it could just be because most of the training in terms of the formation has been done in the formation we're playing. He may have done he may have done other sort of training in other formations, but we don't know that. So it could be that. Or it could just be that he feels with the players he's got at the minute more confident playing 3 at the back.
Sure.
Okay. With the back three that we had, would you feel more confident? Because if we're saying then that game is a perfect example why Kurt Zuma shouldn't play in the middle of a back three, can we just play the back two with Rudiger and Zuma?
But the thing is, could anyone before that game today have said that Zuma was going to be as poor as he was coming into the team?
No, I don't think anyone could have predicted. Question marks about his ability going into the game anyway. But
now it's been answered fully, and it's been shown that he can't play in the middle. So hopefully Tuchel's seen that and will change out for the next game. Whereas before, the only time we've seen him play under Tuchel was against Barnsley, and he played on the left. No, not on the left. He played on the right, didn't he? He wasn't in the middle.
I know, but the question mark.
Yeah, he was. No, he played on the right.
Yeah, he was on the right. So we haven't seen him play in the middle. So
no, actually, he played in the middle against Barnsley as well, because Christensen's played on the right, and I was surprised about it then already. You're right.
Yeah, because Lewis was as well. Actually, yeah, he was.
But go on, finish your point.
But yeah, it could just be a thing of as I don't know who it was that said it. It might have been Lawrence or it might have been Ian, where he just wants to see the players he's got, and he hasn't seen as much of Zuma as he has of others, and he wants to see if he can do it in the Premier League in the middle. Shown he can't, but it's a learning process for Tuchel as well. We've got to remember he's never managed in the Premier League before, never managed pretty much any of these players or most of them. So everyone always says the Premier League's a different intensity to managing in the Bundesliga or Liga or this league or that league. So it's a learning process for him as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but this is the same thing where we say for N'Golo Kante as well, where we're saying, why do we fit him in for this game specifically? And I'm saying the same thing for Kurt Zuma. If you wanted to find out whether he can play in a back three, why did you pick the Southampton game when it could have been the Barnsley game? It could have been not the Barnsley game. Sorry, the Burnley game. It could have been
Newcastle. Yeah,
like one of the easier teams, one of the teams where maybe he won't get tested as much, but you're not going to throw him into the deep end just like we've done now against Southampton, which we all earmarked as the toughest game out of the lot. So why is this the one where we've experimented so much? Like, I didn't think Zuma was the right call for this one. I didn't think Marcos Alonso was the right call for this one. I thought Alonso suited the Atletico game 10 times better than he would suit this one, because he isn't going to get pressed nearly as hard in that game as he was in this game. And in this game, he was awful. And I don't even want to blame Alonso too much for it, because I knew he was going to be dead as soon as the lineup came out, because this wasn't the team for it.
It's a very tricky one, because I understand in terms of formation, at least, because you said could he have changed formation. I understand why he's stuck to the 3 to start with. I completely agree. Shouldn't have gone with Zuma. Didn't see a need to not play Christensen. I mean, the guy's not that old. Shouldn't, as far as we're aware, doesn't have an injury. Otherwise, wouldn't have been on the bench. And he's a centre back. Shouldn't need rest just because we play Atletico on Tuesday, especially with Thiago Silva being on the verge of being back. Whether he's back for Tuesday or not, we'll see. But he's probably back for United the latest. So Christensen didn't need a rest in that sense. So that he got that wrong, in my opinion. Like I touched on, I think he got it wrong to start Kante. But I think the main thing is he could have just changed it at half-time. And even if not at half-time, change it in the 76th minute when he made that double substitution. I'm sure we'll get to it more with the Callum thing, and I want to talk about it on my channel as well.
Now you might as well drop into it now if you want, because we're going to segue into it. So go.
Fair. Because I didn't necessarily pay as close attention to it as obviously I would assume Tuchel did, in terms of seeing, does he not press enough? Did he miss chances to do all of that? But Tuchel has made a point as well, and I'm not sure if any of you have watched the post-match press conference, saying he does have a tendency to struggle a bit more with the intensity, with the mentality when he comes off the bench. But when he starts, he does good. And that is actually a thing that, if you think about it, has been a thing that actually is a thing for Callum, that he's never really been particularly influential or great when coming off the bench. A bit like Willian. Willian has always been shocking off the bench and decent from the start more often than not.
I like how you changed from good to decent.
Yeah. No, because he had good games, and when he had good games, it was definitely not when he came off the bench, kind of thing, right? And Tuchel said that that same thing happened against. I can't remember which game it was, but he came on in one game, and Tuchel said, "Yeah, it's similar issues." But I still think, even if that was a problem with Callum, even if he thought that was an issue, in terms of getting the team to win, I still think it would have been more beneficial to take an Alonso off, to take Werner off, one of those two. But in my preference, Alonso, and change the shape. Put Aspie at left back for the last 15. Change to a 4-2-2-2 or to a 4-3-3, whatever you fancy, right? But don't take Callum back off. And I do actually think that it will do Callum well, this whole situation. I actually don't think this will hinder him that much or ruin him or whatever. I actually think this will be a good thing. But I don't think yesterday was the time to do that good thing for Callum. Because, okay, of course, in hindsight, if it worked and Ziyech was involved in scoring the winner, none of us would be sat here saying this. But in my opinion, when the sub happened, and in my opinion, before the game, I thought these were wrong decisions. And in the end, they happened to be wrong decisions. Of course, we will never know whether changing the formation would have won us the game. Maybe it wouldn't. Maybe we would have even lost 2-1. We will never, ever know that. So, of course, it's easy for us to sit here and say, oh, he did that wrong and he did this wrong. But what we do know is that what he didn't help us win the game. And I just think Tuchel got it wrong yesterday. And that doesn't mean he's a bad manager. That doesn't mean I want him gone. That doesn't mean anything. Managers get it wrong just like players have a bad day. You know, it happens, especially when you're new to a league. Like Scott said, he's managed 2 of these players before. Pulisic and Thiago were the only 2 players he's managed before of this team. Neither of them played yesterday, by the way. And it's a new league. Maybe he was a bit too much thinking about Atletico as well. I don't know, right? But I think people need to stop, protecting Tuchel too much and saying, and finding an excuse and explanation for everything. Just say you got it wrong yesterday. That's fine. It's okay. Let's just hope it doesn't cost us top 4 by the end of the season. But realistically, that won't be it. What will cost us it. There's so many games left to play. Whether we draw or beat Southampton won't be the reason why we make it or not. I don't think.
That's the thing, though. Because for me, it was like the way we set about this game and the way we also managed it over the 90 minutes. It just screamed, this game isn't that important to us. And the game is important to us, but I don't feel like we moved like the game was that important to us. We played and we managed the game like we have tougher games to look forward to. Wasting 2 substitutions on Callum Hudson-Odoi. Here's the thing. I think might be some sort of a point in him coming on and there wasn't a lot of impact in that game. But I also think to say Callum Hudson-Odoi, you don't really see that sort of impact of him when he comes off the bench. That I don't really agree with, because you look at Lampard's last 2 games, the only time we really had any sort of light was when Callum Hudson-Odoi came off the bench. I think, what was that stat that was it Ian who told me this? I forgot who said it, but it was it was Alex. Last 4 games, I think 4 league games under Lampard, Callum Hudson-Odoi was involved in 2 of our last 4 goals. I think our only 2 goals in that spell, despite only starting 1 of those last 4 games. So he comes on and there's an immediate impact whenever he comes onto the field. So that I struggle to understand in itself. The only thing I could understand in the case of performance, I think he only had 9 or 10 touches in the time that he was on the field. Granted, the guy was on there for 20 minutes, so it was minimal time anyway. But I can only understand this if he balls out in the next 5 or 6 games and he uses that as a big motivator or something like that. But if not, this could have just been a downer on his confidence for not really the sake of it. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of speculation you have to take out of this because it's a lot of from looking in from the outside in this situation. But same way, it ain't a good look, man. And it's not like he dropped an absolute disaster class either.
I do want to ask you something because, and before you get to the super chat, because someone said Moise Kean vibes. I don't agree with this because the big difference here is that Tuchel likes and trusts Callum and has proven that for the past 6 games. And then today or yesterday did what he did, right? So I don't think it's a Moise Kean kind of situation. I do get what you're saying in terms of if it doesn't work, this was a mistake. Fully agree. And I want to ask you this, do you agree? Because I actually like the fact that kind of ruthlessness exists within him. I think that's a good thing. I agree. Was yesterday the time to do it? Maybe not. We'll talk about that or whatever. But in general, I don't mind that. I don't mind that. And I think a player like Callum Hudson-Odoi could probably do with a bit of that. And, we've seen it many times. Lampard didn't use him as much. And maybe it was a mentality situation, right? And maybe something like this can stop the mentality issues being a thing. We don't know this. I'm not saying, Callum is this and Callum is that. Not at all. But I'm saying we've said so many times, Frank didn't use Callum enough. Who knows? I don't know why. We don't know why. Might have been reasonable. Might have not been, right? But I think it could work well. I just want to know, do you like the ruthlessness in itself? Just disregarding the fact that it didn't help us win or whatever. Just disregard that completely. The fact that he wasn't happy with the guy's mentality, and after half an hour of when just bringing him on, he takes him back off because he's not having it. Do you like that?
I absolutely adore the ruthlessness.
Yeah.
But I worry, is it going to work at Chelsea? That's what I worry about because we've seen people in the past be a bit more ruthless and it hasn't worked out. Player power at Chelsea, massive thing. Has been for many, many years. The ruthlessness, if someone doesn't like it, I have a worry that it's going to cost him his job. And it's not going to be in the first 6 weeks, of course, but it's at what point. I love the fact that it's ruthless because, again, you have to step up to the plate. It's very high standards, which is what he was brought in for, something that Lampard didn't have because, again, it's managerial experience and whatever. That's why you bring in someone like Tuchel. But I still worry about certain players aren't going to be able to deal with it. But because the player power is so prominent at Chelsea in years gone by, we could suffer from it down the line. That's the only thing I'm slightly worried about.
I think, to be fair, though, on that point, any player and any of the board members at our club should have known that something like this probably would happen at some point. Tuchel's done this at every club he's been at. I don't know about Mainz, but I know at Dortmund he did it with a few players and he definitely did it at PSG. If someone did something he didn't like, didn't show the right attitude, they were either gone in some respects or they were reprimanded. I mentioned it when we did the thing when he first got signed about a player they signed at Dortmund called Emre Moore. Didn't show the right attitude in training. So Tuchel full on shouted at him and made him run extra laps in training. And every time Moore complained, it got more and more, no pun intended, but it got more and more and more and more. And it's all about showing the right attitude. Same thing happened at PSG. And it comes down to just how Tuchel is as a manager, how he likes his players to be. And I do think, on Lawrence's point about this, a similar thing happening with Lampard, I'm not saying that Callum's got an attitude problem. I'm not in the slightest. What I will say is this is the third manager that has had some sort of issue, for lack of a better term, with Callum. Sarri didn't want to play him all the time, despite saying he was ready. Lampard didn't always want to play him. And now we've seen this with Tuchel. So, as I said, I'm not saying he's definitely got an attitude problem, but there may not be smoke without the fire.
Yeah, it works in both ways. That's the thing. Like, I don't want to respond to this in a finished way because I think it all depends on how Callum Hudson-Odoi reacts to it. Like, there could be positive outcomes. Like, man says the super chat here. Flick did the same thing with Sane, did it good as well. And you're correct to say that it has happened before. I'm worried about what the main reaction could be to it, but like he's young as well. And the thing with Tuchel, it's not like the other two managers where they've barely utilised him. Tuchel has clearly earmarked Callum Hudson-Odoi as one of his key players going forward.
Mm-hmm.
So he might have just not liked the way he set out for this game, and that's fine. Like, I'm annoyed that it's coming the Southampton game. He could have had some sort of impact in the last 15 minutes of that game where he was subbed off anyway. And compared to his substitutes performance, Hakim Ziyech, he could have definitely had a better performance than Ziyech had in that game as well. So I'm not sure it was right in the sense of the game, but in the long term, maybe in terms of the player that he grew out to be, maybe it is something you can learn from. But we can't speculate too much on it. It is just a wait and see. Another super chat says, considering Cho was hooked for body language, no wonder Havertz can't get a look in considering his body language. Now, Havertz is just more of an injury thing as well. There was one other message I want to see. This was it. Jester, he said, Hudson-Odoi is overrated by our fan base because of 1, he is English, 2, he is an academy graduate. If he was neither of those, you lot wouldn't rate him. I wouldn't say it to that point because that would just be ignoring the last few performances that he's had as well. He's been one of our best players in the last 5 or 6 games, and that's why we've been screaming for him to get more game time. Jester, I know you're active on here as well. Like, if you want to jump on as well and state your case, just drop me a message because I do want to hear what your thoughts are behind this. But what are you guys' thoughts?
I know Jester quite well. Obviously, he's a member of my channel. Big up to him. He's not a fan of he's not a fan of the academy. He's not a fan of a lot of these players. As much as, you know, and I say this to a lot of people, you know, whether I like you or not, I'll have this opinion no matter what. There's people that have an agenda positively for the academy players and rate them for no reason sometimes. And then there's other people that hate them for no reason sometimes. And, you know, the truth is probably in the middle of the two, realistically. And to say Hudson-Odoi is, like he said this in a later comment, saying Hudson-Odoi has never been influential in any match. I mean, sorry, but that's just a bit silly, really, to say that. I mean, literally under Tuchel, he's been influential in like 3 or 4 games. Like, you know, sorry. And if Timo Werner, one of the not academy players, just knew how to arrive at the far post, Hudson-Odoi would have 6 assists or 7 under Thomas Tuchel already. Like, or not just Werner, but he just plays that position that should arrive at the far post. If any of our team just understood that we should arrive at the far post. Also manager thing, though, because we never arrived at the far post on the Sarri, we never arrived at the far post on the Frank, and other than Chilwell at the very start of the season, and we never arrived at the far post on the Tuchel so far. So that is the thing. Somehow these managers need to drill this into the players because we keep crossing the ball there, just no one ever gets there, which is a bit weird. But Callum, to say he's overrated, I mean, what is Timo Werner if Callum Hudson-Odoi is overrated? Like, I know Timo Werner obviously had a brilliant season at Leipzig and had multiple brilliant seasons, but if we're judging of this season, like, I know Timo has so many goals and so many assists and so many penalties won still, but it's a mix of stats and eye test. And when I watch Timo Werner, I get triggered all the bloody time. With Hudson-Odoi, that happens a lot less.
Yeah,
I will say. Go on. I will say very quickly. I slightly agree with a little bit of this because I think, hear me out, I think that potentially if he wasn't English, he might have been put out on loan already. Just an argument. Obviously, he had his injury and whatever, but at certain times, I think he was given we really like this guy, let's come and help him and whatever. And I think it was Bayern, they wanted to come and sign him, wasn't it, a few years ago?
And last summer.
Yeah. If he was potentially from elsewhere around the world and wasn't an academy graduate and was just a young player that we had brought in, if it was like 50, 60, 70 million or whatever that rumoured fee was, I think he'd have gone. And that it just been, Chelsea wouldn't have thought twice. So I kind of understand slightly. I don't agree. I don't think he's overrated at all. He is still a youngster. He probably gets a little bit more hype. But I would probably slightly agree that if he was from potentially somewhere else around the world, or he didn't come through the Chelsea youth system, they would have just gone, yeah, can't turn down that profit. I think they almost don't want it to be one of those, the one that got away things.
2-1 Villa. Sorry, 2-1 Leicester, by the way. Villa got one back.
Yeah, I just seen that one.
I do agree with what Ian said, but also if Bayern Munich, and they are very careful with where and what they spend money for, other than Lucas Hernandez, they're very careful with who they spend money on. Sorry?
He ain't even a bad player. I just think he's unlucky because he was in the team, got a really nasty injury, so they were forced to play Alaba at centre-back and Davies at left-back, and then it just turned out that Alphonso Davies is the best left-back in the world. So, Like, I think he's just very, very unlucky with the fact he got injured when he was in the team, and then the two players that replaced him in terms of where he plays have turned out to be absolutely phenomenal.
Jesters, can we use your real name, or do you want us to call you Jesters? Because I'm quite excited, because I've seen you around my page for quite a while, and I've never actually spoken to you.
No, you can use my real name. It's Jared.
Yes.
Yes, Jared. Nice to see you, man. How's your day been, bro? Or is it night? Is it day?
It's 9 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, okay, so morning. Nice.
Yeah, it's
well,
morning. Yeah.
Morning to you, bro. What are your thoughts on Callum Hudson-Odoi? Because I want to hear this, man.
Well, look, I think there's a player in there, but I think he gets really hyped up because of the academy he came out of and because he's English. And there's no slight against him, okay? I just think that we have to get Callum on the pitch. We have to get Callum on the pitch. He won 2 man of the match with 1 assist. Now, I've never seen anybody win 2 man of the match with 1 assist. And again, he's a good young player, but just let him be a good young player. Don't put all this pressure on him that, oh, he's going to be the next big thing. He's Hazard's replacement. He's this or that. These are all things I've seen from people who are supposed to be knowledgeable in the game. Okay, you're supposed to be knowledgeable. You know, I'm just a dumb American is what I get when I say no. Pulisic is light years ahead of him. You put on the tape and you show me where Callum has done anything like Pulisic's run last year in the last 9 games. Show me. Go ahead.
Is it just Callum, or is it multiple youngsters at Chelsea?
No. I said a long time ago that Mount was our best prospect from the academy, not Callum, because he has a better understanding, or it's just he has a better understanding of the game overall. The way he positions himself. I wish he would shoot more. There was an early chance in the beginning of the Southampton game where he played, I think, Reece in, but he had an open channel to shoot the ball from outside the box. He's got to take those chances. He's got to shoot that shot because, okay, maybe it's just on target and it gets deflected off the keeper and somebody's there for a tap in. But if you don't ever shoot that ball and you just play Reece in, that chance goes by the wayside. So I wish he'd shoot more. I think sometimes his pace is his main weaknesses is his pace from that position. He lacks a little bit of pace, but Mount is a good player. But again, young player needs to be given the time to develop and not overhyped. I always say if you think Mount's our talisman right now, we're in mid-table matters because he's not that yet.
Mm-hmm. That's very fair. That is very fair.
As far as Tammy,
Tammy ain't the one. Tammy ain't the one.
Tammy is just an average striker. He's if you give him the ball in front of the goal, he's going to score. But if you don't, what does he do? Doesn't head the ball. He's 6'3", doesn't head the ball. Doesn't hold the ball up. Doesn't link up play very well. So, what?
It's a sticky one with Tammy still. Tammy, I'm just more patient with him because I feel like he's going to be slower. But same way, that's why I don't call for this over-reliance on Tammy Abraham either. If we had to rely on Tammy for a run of games, I'd be sitting there like, shit, like, I don't really want that. But as a number 3 or potentially number 2, right now I don't mind. As long as we don't have to overly rely on him as our main output, as our main striker, that's fine. That's I don't care. Because our third choice striker was Batshuayi last year. We've gone up from that.
He's coming home. He's coming home. He's coming home.
Oh,
but
but yeah, you get my point anyway. But the thing on Callum Hudson-Odoi, do you think it's the case more that he just hasn't had that run of games to show it? Because this is the first time he's had that long run of games, and this is the first bad game we've seen from him, the Southampton match.
I don't think it is though. Not under Tuchel, yes. In general, no. Because I remember there was a period last season, it was either the start of last season or the season before, whatever Lampard's first season, I think, where he was in the team. He was in the team a lot and wasn't doing too much. And there was a few people on, like a few Chelsea fans on Twitter saying he wasn't doing too much.
But that was right on the return of his Achilles injury.
Right, and that's his main issue. But I've watched a lot of sports in my lifetime, and I know a lot about injuries. An Achilles injury sets you back for a year at least, just to get back to where you were. So that's what I'm saying. He needs time because of the injury to get there. Whether he wants to take the time, whether he thinks, no, I'm good enough to be in the starting lineup every week, I don't think he is. I think Reece is better wing back defensively than Callum is. And if you've noticed, he's played wing back. Callum has played wing back against teams we're not worried about offensively, right? You put him against Atletico at wing back or Man City or Man United, he'll get eaten up because he's not played there enough to have the tactical understanding of what he needs to do on defense. He's a winger by trade. So you can play a winger there. I think Son played at the end of the match at the Tottenham match today at a wing back position, but they were just trying to score. So you can do that, but if you play against a top team, you're going to get exploited.
But we didn't get exploited so far with him there because we don't actually he doesn't actually play wing back. Off the ball, we play a 4-4-2, not a 5 anything. So Hudson-Odoi slots in as a right mid and defends as much as any right wing ever did when we played a 4-3-3 as well, where it was Willian, Pedro, whoever played at the right wing. They also had to track back and help out defensively just as much as Callum Hudson-Odoi does right now. That's the point with Aspie playing at right centre back, that he moves out to be in a defensive shape, the right back. Obviously, you have certain occasions where the winger needs to help out, and yeah, you're right. Of course, then Reece is slightly better at that than Callum Hudson-Odoi, but you also have to look at our average game. Our average game is where we need to make sure we break the opponent down, not to make sure that they don't break us down. So for us to climb higher up the table and to be consistently better in the Premier League and in the Champions League, Champions League maybe to a lesser extent, right? Because then so we consistently play better teams from the knockout stages onwards. But our average game is when we need our wide players to attack, not defend so much. So that's much less of a concern. And I do want to bring that up. You're right. Hudson-Odoi hasn't had a run of 9 games like Pulisic did after restart. True. First of all, has Callum Hudson-Odoi had a run of 9 games ever? Probably not. And secondly, it's all well and good, but it doesn't help you being that good if you're that injury prone.
I agree.
Like, you can be that good.
That's why the comparison to Pulisic is a bit off in my opinion, because hey, it's well and good, but this season he's had more injuries than goals and assists, and even when he's played, he's missed sitters half of the time. So it's like. And I'm not even having a go at Pulisic now, but I'm saying Pulisic is likely as ahead of Callum Hudson-Odoi. It might well be, but he's not making use of it because he's injured or not playing well this season. And we're now. It's February, nearly March of 2021. It ain't July last year anymore, so it doesn't really matter what happened then.
But my point to that would be then, we've just talked about. I brought up Hudson-Odoi not playing well, and we brought up he's injured. Does Pulisic not get the same leeway? Does Ziyech not get the same leeway? Does Havertz not get the same leeway? Does whoever's been injured not get the same leeway?
But it's different whether you have a muscle injury and you have a tendency to get injured. And this is no criticism of Pulisic not playing well, but as in it's a problem that he gets injured so much. Because if you get injured that much, then that excuse applies always. So when do you actually start to rely on him? Because if he's always injured, he always has to come back, and then he always has that excuse, and then it's kind of pointless. But Hudson-Odoi came back from a really bad injury. You can't compare a little hamstring tear to ripping your Achilles. Not the same thing.
It's like Robin when he always used to be injured for Bayern Munich. Difference is they never relied on him. They just allowed him when he was in the team to go and cause madness because they knew that they were going to be able to go through Ribery or whoever, Muller, so many other players. Where one person, again, I still think Pulisic has got hamstrings made of cheese. But, I mean, there we are. That's the position we're at. But I agree. I do think they need to get given a little bit more time. But at the same time, Chelsea have backed a lot of we're trying to build a team for the future, which is, good, great, fair enough. But got to have a little bit of leadership in there as well with a few of the older players. That's what West Ham had today. They had a lot of young players, but they're more experienced ones were doing the job. And I think there's been too much, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not pressure. I think there's been too much hype given to some younger players. English ones, new signings, loads of different people, and they haven't necessarily hit the ground running. And I think a lot of people are then acting really surprised that a team full of 21-year-olds, 22, 23, 24 aren't actually playing as well as we might have been able to.
Yeah. It's not surprising, to be fair. Like, Monaco had the same problem back, like, the season after they won the league. They got rid of all of their best players. I think most of their squad over the next season or season and a half was like 20, 21, 22s. They did so terribly. So then in the transfer window, I think it was in January, wherever they signed Fabregas from us, it was that transfer window, they started getting more experience in because they realised that this isn't going to work. Trying to play with a team full of 21-year-olds or 22-year-olds just doesn't work, because you need to have those players in there that have the experience that can either bring them back down to earth in terms of like making sure they don't get too carried away, or while they're doing all the fancy stuff, you have the experienced players that can do all the simple stuff and like basically keep it solid.
Well, I think my point when I say that Pulisic is light years ahead of CHO, if you had them both perfectly healthy and on form, who's the better player?
Pulisic, I back that still.
Sure.
Yeah, Pulisic.
But
I don't think many people would disagree with that, though. Do you?
No. I think there are some that would.
But actually, let me add to that, because we'd say Pulisic, but we've seen the best of Pulisic in his best position on the left-hand side. We've seen Hudson-Odoi play on the right, where he's been good, but I've also said as well, we could potentially see an even better Hudson-Odoi if we pushed him onto the left-hand side too. So that's where I think the jury's still a bit further out on him.
The Europa League campaign, to be fair, we never played Hazard all the way through, and normally it was Callum Hudson-Odoi that played on the left-hand side, and it was just the like-for-like swap, to be fair.
Yeah, and he had a couple good games in that match as well. Like, that was his first season breaking into, second season breaking into Chelsea team
probably,
as well. But that was the first time he had regular game time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the jury's still out a bit more, because I need to see him have a run of games on the left-hand side, because that's why I think he's even more dangerous than he is right now. Now, we've seen Pulisic on the right, and he hasn't been as effective as he is on the left. So I feel like the same argument goes both ways.
Yeah, but you're not going to see Callum on the left. We have Timo Werner.
Yeah.
No, because of Timo Werner.
That's a fair point.
Well, so I still think Timo Werner will leave Chelsea not in the too distant future, but that's just.
Well, he might in a couple of years, but they're already talking about selling Callum this summer, or using him to get Haaland.
I don't believe that.
Well,
but to be fair, whether you believe it or not, the fact it's being spoken about is still slightly a worry.
Because but there's not too many people on this team I would keep and say, no, I don't want to bring Haaland in. And that would be all of Havertz. Everybody else can go, including my favorite player, if we can bring in Haaland.
Yeah,
I'm glad someone else likes Havertz as high as I do. Yes.
Oh yeah. Like, Havertz, that's something we can all universally agree on. Havertz, we all know he's coming good. It's just time with him.
But like when I say that, I'm talking about
Craig. Okay, because there's a bit of a.
No, he's going to be a very good player. I just slightly worry about him in the Premier League. I think if he were to have gone to Real Madrid, he'd have been a superstar. But I just slightly worry, But he's still a good player. That's very obvious.
Do you think I think he'll adapt to the intensity of the league, though, because I get what you're worried about, because he's still a bit too slow on the ball right now, but I think he'll get better at that.
And he needs to bulk the fuck up as well.
We haven't even seen the guy in God knows how long play. Like we don't even know.
I know. I'm going off what I've seen so far. Yeah, but I still worry slightly. But that's again, it's small worries. It's not this guy's a complete flop and we've wasted 70 million quid. It's
It's just question marks. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't you think it's so weird that for some players we have this thing where it's like, they need to bulk up, but for other players that haven't bulked up and they're just good, we never say they need to bulk up. Say like Bernardo Silva, brilliant player. No one said he needs to bulk up. Like
Bruno Fernandes,
different types of players.
Bruno Fernandes, but they're not that different. Like.
Bernardo
we said this about every player. We said this about, Tammy needs to bulk up. We said this about, Pulisic needs to bulk up. Yeah. And we said this about this guy needs, but like Aguero isn't exactly massive. Like that's not the reason why you're good.
I think it depends, again, I think it depends on where you found
he has that low central gravity.
Yeah.
Sure. But still, it's not the be all and end all.
Like Kai Havertz is like 6'2", isn't he?
Yeah.
And he's meant to be, like, I could see Kai Havertz, like, if he got a bit stronger, being one of those focal points that we could try finding in the air, because I think his heading is a very underrated aspect of his game. Even his strength, I think, is underrated in itself, but it's only because now he's in the Premier League and he's in a much more physical league.
Yeah.
It doesn't look as good as it once used to do in the Bundesliga. But that's not necessarily mean it's not there. I think it is there. It's just now he needs to like level up a little bit more. Now it's the big leagues, it's the Premier League. You gotta get stronger. But I'm
just saying, if you're tall, it's very difficult to be very muscular. That's what happens when you're tall. Like Ibrahimovic isn't bulky. It just, if you're that tall, you need to be very genetically, lucky to still be able to bulk properly. There's very few people that are capable of doing that.
Like, I'm not asking him to be the Rock here.
You're probably lean as well. If you're strong and you're big, you're gonna have no agility about you whatsoever.
You can. Like, it depends. It depends how you do it. If you do it the Lukaku way, then no. Or not like Lukaku when he was a United way, then no. It's not going to work. But you can do it smart.
Tammy will never have the physiology of Lukaku. That's impossible. He will never be able to.
No, but what I'm saying, I'm just using what I'm saying. Like you can do it smart. Like, Bayern have done it. Bayern have done it with so many players where they get them to bulk up, put on muscle, but not so much that it's stupid. Like Goretzka looks so much better since he's bulked up, got a bit of a bigger frame. And he can actually boss the midfield. Same with Lewandowski. He was always brilliant, but now he's got a bit of a bigger frame. He can hold the ball up a bit more. The thing with Tammy is, if Tammy had any dribbling ability whatsoever, I'd say, no, he doesn't need to bulk up because he can do what Aguero does where he takes players on. But Tammy's got no dribbling ability. So the next thing he needs to be able to do is hold the ball up. He can't hold the ball up if he's got nothing about him.
He's better at holding the ball up than Olivier Giroud. I'm telling you that.
Oh, God, no, he's not. Oh, Christ, no, he's
not. Watch games back this season. Olivier Giroud has had one game all season long, and he's started 6 where he actually held the ball up well. One. I'm not saying Olivier Giroud was never good at it, but now at 34, he's not good at it anymore.
Yeah. But I think, again, his age is slightly against him in that.
I think he can hold it. It's just the mobility and then what he does next where the issues with. Because he's now just that little bit more slower than we want him to be. Like, his strength is still there. And I still think that's levels clear of Tammy Abrams. But I think you're right in the case that Tammy's more mobile and he can do more after it. But then it's the other case where we do need to see him get a bit stronger. And here's the thing. Like, we're playing football at the highest level, at the most expensive level. We probably have one of the best fitness teams in the fucking world. And we can't come up with training plans to get Tammy Abraham a bit wedge or to get Kai Havertz a little bit stronger in itself as well.
Yeah. So someone said in the comments, didn't Tammy bulk up anyway? Because I would have said he did.
He is a little bit.
What he did at the start when he first joined us, his hold-up play was stinky. Like
you don't see him running around without a shirt.
Now he's got better, but he was like genuine bottom barrel when he first joined us.
I still don't believe that Goretzka thing was natural anyway. But that's me being a bit of a got my tinfoil hat on.
And here's another point. Maybe Pulisic bulking up has been worse for him because the more muscle you have and the more torque you put on your connective tissues, the more injuries you're going to have. And Pulisic is a very torquey player, which means he cuts real fast. And you don't want people like that to have huge muscles because you'll blow out a knee, you'll blow out a hamstring, you'll blow out an adductor because you put too much torque on those connective muscles and tissues or ligaments that they weren't built to have that much force put against them. Okay, it's simple biology. So to say certain players need to bulk up, if it goes against their physiology, you're just going to have more injuries.
So it just depends on position as well, because I think it's, as I said, it's less important for wingers because unless you're an Adama Traore where you've just got that explosive speed, or like a Lukaku is at the minute where he's improved his touch to the point that it's kind of half decent and he's got that explosiveness, it doesn't really help as much because it makes you less mobile. And for wingers, that just doesn't make sense.
And another thing about Havertz, if Havertz is balling out, you will not see any different body language than what you see now.
Yeah,
I've watched him play. He just looks aloof when he's running around, but that's because he doesn't have to try really hard to run fast. He's got so long-legged that it just looks like he's barely trying and he's just gliding across the field. That's just how he is, and he never shows a lot of emotion on his face. That's Kai Havertz.
Yeah, I love him so much.
Loves you.
You're muted.
I had a helicopter flying past, and that's what we were about it. But yeah, I said Ziyech is a little bit like that as well. That he always looks like that. The problem is it's natural instinct. I think of a fan. It's natural instinct of a fan to get triggered at it.
Yeah,
when they don't look like they're bothered and they play badly.
It's the same thing with Martial United. We've spoke. There's so many times I remember back at the They Shall Not Be Named days, the channel that shall not be named, I should say. We had previews we did with the United stand with Flex and Rants, and one of the things that Rants always used to back was Martial's body language all the time. He would the criticism would come in, and he'd always say that people don't know what they're talking about. His body language isn't good, but he does so much else that people don't want to look at. All they look at is his body language, and it's the same with Ziyech, and it's been the case since he was at Twente before Ajax. At Twente, his body language was terrible. At Ajax, there were times when he got in arguments with the Ajax fans, over his body language and how he came across. And it wasn't until that Erik ten Hag came in and changed it up and went with the formation and system he did that he got the best out of Ziyech, that you saw all those problems go away. He had problems with fans because of that, what you said, Lawrence, where the body language thing is how you just come across in games, how you come across on the pitch.
Well, also, I don't know if y'all have looked at this, but I think we've brought in too many players that have to have the ball. If you're not feeding Timo, you're going to see him disappear like last game. If Ziyech doesn't have the ball at his feet, he can't create because he's not making off the ball runs. Mm-hmm. That's not what he does. You can't have too many players on the pitch together that have to have the ball to look good, because if you do, then you're just going to have somebody out there that looks lost the whole time, or you're not getting the best out of.
I think you can. The problem is it takes away from areas where we'll suffer. We could play a 4-2-3-1, say for example, and get all those players in, but that either means that we have to play a midfield where we've got no defensive solidity, or a back four where there's going to be so many holes. It's like a bit of Swiss cheese.
Well, I'm saying
you end up losing, and I think it's something we could see, but we have to get a proper defensive midfielder and a couple, one, maybe two better defenders.
I'm not saying you can't get them on the pitch together. What I'm saying is they have to have the ball. So you're not going to see Ziyech at his best unless the ball comes to him. He has 80 touches a game. You're not going to see the best out of him because, one, he's a volume guy. He's never been, shooting-wise, he's never been accurate. He has to shoot a lot, just like Timo. Well, you can't have two players on the pitch who have to shoot a lot to get a lot of goals.
And you ain't going to be clinical.
It's just not going to happen.
I've just seen the Arsenal midfield for the game they've got.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
Is William playing?
It's El Neni and Xhaka.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, Lawrence, we're going to enjoy our stream at 4:00. Yeah, this will be fun.
Yes, we are, bro.
What were you saying, Jessica?
Well, what I'm saying is you just can't have all those. You can't have that many players on the pitch that have to have a lot of shots or a lot of touches to do what they do. Right? That was the thing about Hazard. Hazard had to have the ball to be Hazard. If he didn't have the ball,
he was
missing the best.
Yeah.
Also, as well, backing up that point is with the youngsters that we've got as well. They're very much the same thing. Getting volume, and then after a while it'll improve until it's so natural that they're right at the top of their game. Frank Lampard would have missed a hell of a lot of chances when he was a youngster. That's just fact. Until you can really figure it out for yourself over time is where you really start to see it a lot more. But when you've got some of the experienced players that are still volume guys as well, of trying to hit 5 or 6. Sorry?
Unless you're Erling Haaland, then you don't need that.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. That's a freak of nature. But yeah, a lot of the youngsters that we've got, especially Mason Mount and Kai Havertz, I think as well, they'll have to be on the ball a lot to really be able to progress and develop, which isn't a problem as long as you've got the other people around that are going to make life a little bit easier for them, which I think we haven't got. Also, as well, you're saying about the back post and Hakim Ziyech. Hakim Ziyech will never arrive late at the back post. No. Just saying.
No, he will put the ball to the back post, though.
Yeah, but he won't arrive at it.
I don't even feel like we're using him as a creator. That's the thing.
We need a Kalou. That's what we need. We need a Kalou.
Also,
he's still playing.
I don't
he's still about in big 2021.
He's playing in Brazil.
Oh my God! I big up Kalou, man.
They've just got relegated. His team.
Is he the only team in that 2012 winning side that's still playing?
No,
Louise.
We literally played against Bertrand yesterday.
Gary Cahill.
Okay, so yeah, I he said that shit. But yeah, my point still stands. I can't believe the man's still playing. Probably because he's
he's still officially part of the squad.
Yep.
Petr is still officially part of the squad, bro.
Oh yeah, I still say he's our second choice goalkeeper. But we still ain't seen him get any of the game time. But yeah, guys, any final thoughts before we wrap up the stream? Because Loz, I do know you need to set up your stream as well.
No, I've set it up already. I'm fine.
All right, cool. Craigo, anything else?
Up the Chelsea as always. Still need to be better. Again, individuals need to put their finger out their ass. But don't blame only Tuchel. Don't blame only the players. It's a team effort.
All right. And Scott, what about you?
So I echo what Ian said, and looking forward to the Atletico game, especially after they've come back off. They're coming off the back of a loss.
Oh, that was shocking yesterday.
I didn't watch the game, but I just saw the result. They're also without one of their key attacking players, possibly. Carrasco's a doubt, so take it.
And Jimenez is out too.
Yeah, Jimenez.
Their best centre backs out.
They're all out. Their form is in the mud as well. I don't want to say
that's why I don't want Jimenez, because he's just a defender. Pulisic. He's just injured all the bloody time.
I'd have taken him like a year or two ago, but at this point,
100 million we wanted to spend on that.
120 million. I am good. Didn't want him anyway. Not for that price. Ain't worth it. Jester, thanks again for jumping on, man. It's been a while. So, what's your final thoughts?
Well, I think we're going to look for something special on Tuesday. This team has enough talent to win the Champions League the way it is right now. The talent is there. It's about putting it all together. And if we can go on a run, I think Champions League is a definite possibility. It's the only possibility of getting a trophy outside the FA Cup.
We're not going to win the fucking league. We're not going to win the
league. There's a chance. I'm just waiting for the City have to bottle it first.
I was going to say, to be fair, if we'd won yesterday, we would have only been 12 points behind.
Only 12.
It's better than Liverpool. That's all
United got up on 12 points once, and I say we're better than United, so it is what it is. It is what it is. But guys, we're going to end off here because we got to head off to Lawrence's stream in 20 minutes. So guys, check out Lawrence's channel. The link is in the title as well. Check out Craigo's new video as well. That's gone out on his channel. So guys, check that out, like and subscribe too.
Come on.
And we'll see you guys tomorrow for yet another live stream, probably previewing the Atletico match. It's a Tuesday kickoff, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So yeah, we're definitely going to be Atletico match. So we'll have some guests down, someone who watches Atletico, so we can have some semi-decent preview. But we will be back probably this time tomorrow. So check it out. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Carefree Lucy if you haven't done already. Big up everyone who's been locked in. Take care and up the Chelsea.